right? Can you test? Can you test?
Sure. Can you hear me now? If I'm speaking to the microphone?
Okay, let me just.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you want to go to the loading page of the same, you can just go here and then presentations right. Okay.
Just have a bring presentation, I guess.
You want to bring up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So that's right.
Sure.
And then you can just present.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Perfect. I listen.
Ready to get going then? Yeah. Good to start? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the New Jersey Geospatial Forum.
This is your general meeting of the Geospatial Forum this Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Geospatial Forum is this is a general meeting of the 9 constituencies covering the federal government, education, institutions, municipal government, county government, state government, private sector, regional authorities, nonprofit, non-government, and professional land surveyors to bring forth their geospatial issues, solutions, and workflows so that the community at large can learn from one another and we can gather and learn from each other. Today, we're going to start with the announcements. Any announcements or updates? I'm going to start. We're going to start from the bottom up. So we'll start down from the NGOs and anyone in the audience that I know I have a few of the folks here that I'm going to introduce in a minute, but I just wanted to make sure we've got, maybe 15 or so in the audience. Is there anyone here that has any announcements or any issues that they'd like to bring forth that I don't know about? Okay. All right. So that's good. If there's something, you can always bring forth. Matt, I'm giving you one chance. Is there something you want to talk about? Okay. Matt just got here. He's usually good for something, so I just want to make sure there wasn't something he wanted to say. Okay. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna bring up. Currently the state has a contract ongoing, and our geographic information officer was called away on that same effort. We'll be seeing him maybe in an hour. So in lieu of Brian, I'm going to bring up Scott, and he's going to give us the update for the state and for any GIO function, and then we'll continue on.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we got all right, a couple announcements from the Office of GIS. Number one being what Brian was called away for, the T1841 GIS services contract renewal. The RFP is live and out, so if anyone is interested in bidding on that contract, please visit our website at NJGIN or just go straight to NJ Start. All the information is there on how to submit. This is the services contract for state agencies to get data development services and app development services. Let's see, another announcement is we have updated parcels. This is a big one. This is we added in the 2024 Mod 4 data that we get once a year from Treasury. But on top of that, we made some adjustments to the schema where there are a couple fields that the Mod 4 manual specifies as being numeric, and we've been using them as text. They're now numeric as they're supposed to be. Let's see. And also, there's a new URL for the ArcGIS Online hosted feature service for the parcels. All the information for that is also on Engine website. Another fun thing on the Engine website is we updated the metadata guidance documentation, went through, cleaned that up, and it's make it a little more user-friendly. Metadata is not everyone's favorite thing to do, but we're trying to help make it easier. Let's see, we're also continuing, like everyone else, doing the slow, inexorable move from web app builder to experience builder. So another one of our apps is moved over for the image warehouse. And lastly, for OGIS, I want to announce that the Next Gen 911 grant cycle for this year that we didn't think we were going to get any money for has closed. Awards have not been made, but we did have submissions from 4 of the 5 eligible New Jersey counties to get support from a vendor to update their address points and road center lines so they can fit into the new Next Gen 911 data model to make Next Gen 911 work. If those get funded, and they're going up against all the 250 some odd PSAPs in the state that also need to update all their call handling equipment, which is the lion's share of the expenditures. But if the GIS stuff gets funded for those 4 counties, that would mean that we got funding for 20 of 21 counties in the state to update address points and road center lines to feed into the Next Gen 911 project. And that is ongoing right now. Work is being done on that in about half the counties in the state. Okay. Now moving on from OJS to other state stuff, there's a big effort going on at multiple state agencies to prep for the FIFA World Cup coming up this summer in 2026. And that's coordination between DOT, OEM, OHSP, and transit. There's a lot of stuff going on with that, and it's some of it I'm trying to get them to speak at a future forum because the tech behind it is so really cool. So see if we can get those guys to come in after the summer when they have time. And also the 2025 aerial imagery collection that happened this spring is moving along. It's processing. It's at higher resolution, so it's taking a little longer to process. That was expected. And things are going along fine with the vendor on that, and more updates on that as it comes along. All right, thank you. Pass it on. I'll pass it on to Eliza for the federal.
I'm just going to interject here real quick. Eliza is our new federal elect. Stephen had retired, and we had the position vacant for a while. And thankfully, Eliza, the next participant. That I'm just kidding. Come on up.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, as like Matt just said. Okay, like Matt just said, Steve Collar retired last spring. So he got to attend. His last meeting was back in March, and so I'll be taking his spot on the executive committee. And yeah, thanks for the invitation to do so, and excited to be more involved. So I just wanted to provide some updates from the USGS National Geospatial Program on the LiDAR and hydrography projects that we have in New Jersey. I have good news and I have bad news. So the good news is the government's back open, and while we were away, the contractors working on these projects were able to continue their work because these projects were funded with previous funding years funds. They were not funded with FY 26 funds, which is why the government shut down. So that's good news. They were able to keep working on it even though the government wasn't available. The bad news is the 2 LiDAR projects in New Jersey are both running behind. The 6 county project, which was funded in 2023, the data are still in review. I don't even want to speculate on a data delivery date right now. We are working really closely with John Tyrowski and Brian Embley and keeping Scott in the loop too. We've had some issues there. We've gotten higher ups from Department of Interior involved, and you know, we're doing the best that we can to get the data out to everyone. So on top of that, the 4-county project has experienced a different brand of issues, unfortunate. So the contractor was supposed to have the data submitted by the end of September for independent quality control. They're asking for an extension until the end of January. So that puts everything 4 months behind. So we were looking at a data delivery date of, I think, March 30th. So if we tackle on that 4 months, fingers crossed, data delivery by July 30th. But I'll keep everyone, you know, posted at these meetings on progress with that project. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we need some good luck charms here that we don't experience any more issues. So sorry to deliver that news. And the hydrography project, so just to refresh everyone's memory, this is a 3D hydrography program project funded by primarily by Delaware Geological Survey. They're funding a statewide hydrography project, but we all know that water does not respect political boundaries. So NRCS pitched in some money. Thank you, Trish. And USGS also contributed some funding to expand that project boundary outside of the state of Delaware so that we could accommodate some of these watersheds that cross over the state boundaries. So this project includes the whole state of Delaware and then some what we call hydrologic units that extend into Maryland and Pennsylvania. And then we've got 9 12-digit hydrologic units, which are small units that extend into southeast New Jersey. So this project is running on time. The contractor should have all the work units in the USGS for review by the end of February. That's what was written in the task order for this. They divided the project area into 2 different work units, and they're actually looking to submit one of the work units by December 19th to USGS for review. So that's really good news. And on top of that, the way these projects go is we do a back and forth with the contractor to get the data validated. So the contractor submits the data, USGS, National Geospatial Technical Operations Center. They validate the data, and that's just the line work for the data. At the end of the project, all the line work goes through USGS, and we attach like names to it, like useful things that people need when they're looking at, you know, stream data. You want to know what the name of the stream is, and then other attribution as well. So USGS, we have our own production process to get all that data released. We're releasing it through our like a web feature service, trying to get away from these data downloads, kind of staying up with the technology. So we're hoping to have the data release like next fall through this project. So that'll be exciting to, you know, be able to look at what this data looks like in a portion of New Jersey. So if anyone has questions, feel free to shout out now, or you can get in contact with me too. And sorry I didn't have any slides. I know it's usually easier to kind of look at the projects and see what's going on. But I didn't know until Tuesday that I was able to come. So I just didn't have enough time to get the slides into Maya. So next time, hopefully for the March meeting, we'll have some slides for everyone and some better news too. Thanks.
I'm just glad you're back, Eliza, honestly, because I always look forward to your updates. They're always very packed, although they might not be incredibly energetic like I like to get. They're filled with all sorts of good information that we need to know about. So I look forward to the March update for sure. Okay, so let's see. Last chance, some other folks entered while last time I gave it up for the round table here. Lena, it's nice to see you. Nothing from Cumberland? No? Okay. All right. Just got to check, make sure, because after we're done, I think it's better to have the announcements up front. But okay, so today we're going to hear from the Dominador Elefante from the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission and his GIS enterprise. Now, Tom, did you were kind of set the foundation for this, right? I mean, I know you're just about to tell us all about it, but I mean, you kind of did this so wherever Dom goes, he plants enterprise GIS. There's we last time we were at the Meadowlands, that Dom has his fingerprints all over that place as well. Although they've, evolved into a much more elaborate thing than when you were last there. They wouldn't have done that without your foundation. So I'm sure they're grateful for that. So without any further ado, Dominador Elefante. I like Dominador. That's a great name. You need to embrace it.
Is it all queued up?
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Okay. There you go. Good morning, everyone. All right, so today I'll be talking about PVSC's enterprise, GIS, titled 30-Mile Trek from the Great Falls to Robbins Reef. So that's going to be my talk, pretty much the story behind it, starting from 2016 to now. All right, just a brief outline of what I'm going to talk about. First few slides, I'll talk about PVSC, a little bit of our history, the plan or GIS master plan. We'll talk about that in a little bit. System architecture, how traffic is managed, through our system. Some example of smart utility. We called it smart utility because it's not just the maps that we're looking at. It's all of the dynamics and all the cool stuff behind it. Okay, future systems or digital twin endeavors that we're going to venture into starting 2026, and then finally point number 6 is lessons learned from this whole endeavor. All right, so without further ado, about PVSC. All right, as you can see there, we're very big as far as the sewage treating within the state of New Jersey. We are a state agency within New Jersey. We are the largest sewage treatment plant in New Jersey and the 5th largest in the nation. Okay, we serve approximately 48 towns within our jurisdiction. We handle pretty much 25% of New Jersey's wastewater. Along with New Jersey's wastewater, we also handle 15% of New York City's waste, believe it or not. So they come to us by barge. And also area-wide drinking water treatment plant sludges comes to Passaic Valley. 4th point there, we impact about 3.5 million people and thousands of businesses on a daily basis. And we're the largest single healthcare and environmental infrastructure system in New Jersey, and we're identified as a critical infrastructure for the state. And we're one of the largest, single-site consumer of electricity to keep things going. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So here's our plant, our 160-acre plant. In the background, you see New York City. Pretty cool because at the end of the bay there, we have a straight line to New York, and then everything that comes into us, that 160-acre site, process, the everyday wastewater that comes into us. So, little history, okay? So for those of you that don't know about PVSC, so we were formed in 1902 as a special act of the state legislature to reduce pollution of the Passaic River and its tributaries. So, constant I guess pollution of the river, was dominant at that time. So this picture that you see here is in the northern reaches of the Passaic River. Here we're looking at the factories or industries that line the banks of the Passaic River in Patterson. So just fun facts here. Patterson at that time was the silk capital of the world, believe it or not, and stemming from that, a lot of the pollution, polluted the river at that juncture, and even to the early '60s, late '60s, and to the '70s when the Water Act, the Clean Water Act was enacted. Here, construction of the original facilities broke ground in July 1912, couple 20 years before the actual opening of the line opened up for services. All right, so the picture that you see here, it's somewhere between Passaic and Newark. And just to give you an idea where these fine gentlemen are posing for us, they're roughly about 9 to 10.5 feet in diameter. So these are big, massive infrastructure that were built in the early 1900s. All right, so they've stood the test of time, and still, when I go out there with the guys, it's amazing that they're still up and running. Here, the line was completed and began operation on August 2nd, 1924. This one here is Wallington Pump Station, one of the 2 pump stations that's owned and maintained by PVSC. Just to give you some background information about this one, in the 70s, DOT wanted to move this facility, right? So after the bean counters, did their math, they thought that moving the river was the better choice, right? Believe it or not, and so as you can see here, right, based on that 1920 imagery and the 2025, the river was located on the west side of the facility, and then as you can see in 2025, the river got rerouted to the east side of that pumping station. All right, so they thought that back then it was cheaper to move the river. Here, the plant was completed and began operation, as I said, in 1924. Original plant and line designed for 1.5 million people, and at 150 MGD. All right, so that's 150 million gallons per day. As of now, we doubled that to 300 and maxed out at 400. During Sandy, we were close to 800 MGD. Okay, and I think Ida was close to that number as well. What you see here in the front is the sedimentation basin at PVSC, and in the background is the wet weather pump station. Right, still exists to 2025. All right, just to kind of give you an overview on what the plant looks like and where it's located. Here you see the New Jersey Turnpike on the west side of the plant, and then on the east side or right side is Newark Bay, and then cutting the plant in half is Doremus Avenue. So we're close to the Newark Airport, and we split the 2 halves. The left side being the liquid side, and the right side being the sludge side of our operation. So here's the lay of the land. So that's the old configuration of the service area on the left, and then on the right, as what it looks like today, are the 48 communities that make up the district. All right. So in blue, the dark blue, are the combined municipalities. Those are CSOs, and then the light blue are the separated communities that line our district. All right. So we're pretty big, when it comes to servicing the 48 towns. Here's another view of what this looks like. On the left, where it begins at the Great Falls in Patterson, the yellow, if you guys can see the highlights of our interceptor, And then to the middle, which is the plant, where the water is received from the 48 communities. And then to the right there is the dispersion field at Robbins Reef, which is 30 miles at the initial point, all the way down to Robbins Reef. So it's quite a trek, where the treated waters are dispersed at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. So again, this is where our journey begins, with the water at the Great Falls. If anybody hasn't gone up there yet, it's actually a pretty sight. It's a federal park, and it's something of a beauty in my opinion. Okay, so PVSC is very involved, when it comes to cleaning up that area there, and that's where the wastewater begins, its journey to our plant. And then it ends over here at the very foot of the Statue of Liberty at Robbins Reef at the foreground that you see here, is where the dispersion fields, discharges the treated waters that we treat. All right, so that's pretty much the lay of the land there. More on the introduction, just reiterating the 48 towns and the 5 counties that we serve. We have 166 square miles in size, right? So it's pretty big, when it comes to sizes. Again, 25 miles of interceptor, and outfall, makes up our infrastructure that conveys water from the very top to the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. All right, so we process about 300 or close to 300 MGD per day, and when we first got the GIS going, we had a lot of talk on who's going to be using the application. So a lot of the engineering department, maintenance department, industrial compliance, operations, and line operations were the first departments that that utilized the applications. And just to give you an idea of the profile, where it starts at the far right there is the Great Falls, and then at the bottom left is the dispersion field at Robbins Reef. More overview on the plant, right? So we're 160 acres in size, as I said. We're a pure O2 activated sludge secondary treatment plant, and 162 significant industrial users, which I'll go into in a little bit. So these guys are, I'm just going to call them the heavy hitters, from the industry standpoint, that discharges their waste water to us. We have over 5,000 fogs, fat soils, and grease, which are typically restaurants that also discharge to us. We have 68-meter chambers that we monitor, and along those, not the same chambers, but separate chambers, are 45 combined sewer chambers that we monitor during CSO events, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then the last bullet there are 87 telemetry radio repeaters, that we monitor, that communicates back to our plant, which gauges and looks at the flows for those 68 meters that we monitor for flow. The reason being that they're important is that we calculate at the end of the year how much sewage water is being processed by us from the 48 communities. All right, so how did we get here? So the plan, the master plan, the GIS master plan, allowed for us to develop these different applications and the infrastructure. And the concept being, when we were putting this together, was providing a system, a robust system, that would achieve what we wanted to achieve, which was to create this tree, metaphorically speaking, describes the future state of PVSC's GIS. That data from various systems, we're going to get sucked up into the tree roots and managed and processed by the trunk, which are our servers and our portal environment. And then from this yield the fruits and the efforts from these applications, our maps and other products from our GIS enterprise. And then some of the bullets here, and what we did was pretty much get all of the different departments together in our needs assessment. assessing the existing conditions, what was there back in 2016. So a comprehensive data inventory was done, and then a strategic implementation plan was put forth, and then designing the PVSC's data model, right? So we use a lot of the Esri model to actually put this together, and then the enterprise setup, and then deployment. It was pretty much the order that we followed. So some of the things that we still want to put together are some of these siloed systems, right? One of them being the OAM application. So one of the main systems that allow us to manage our assets, within PVSC, our maintenance department, utilize this application, and at this point, it's still siloed because it's not connected to GIS. Okay. So asset linking and mapping is one of the key things that we want to achieve. So starting in 2026, we'll be developing the first connection to this application. Preventative maintenance. So anybody involved in maintenance and for all of the assets within our plant, we need to understand how often things break, how often things are maintained. These are some of the things that our maintenance departments, our engineering department pays close attention to. Some quantitative or quantifying metrics that we want to see as part of this endeavor. And then not just finding the location, but finding some logic into some of these assets. Not just looking at it on a linear asset. We want to look at it vertically as well. And then the last point or 2 points there is having asset valuation. So we want to tie in with our finance department and to make sure and understand how much are we spending on maintenance on these assets, right? So it's very big, with us, and we want to bridge that gap using GIS. So having this unified platform and having GIS as the center point for it would help the application go a long way. And this is one of the applications that we want to integrate. So we recently got connection to this application, and what we want to do is actually just look into this a little bit more deeper, right? So they gave us a read access to this database, and one of the things that we found was it's just a big endeavor and a lot of moving pieces when it comes to assets. So this one here is looking at the asset types, and not being involved at the very beginning, complicates things. So what we want to do is actually, make sure that we get the verbiage right, when we're tying in this, this data into GIS. So some of the things that we're trying to do is, look at, the metrics behind it. So we started mapping out how we can actually use some of the data inside of, this asset management application. And see what some of these assets are about, right? So we're beginning to look at some of the fingerprints behind them, and then we're trying to pull this together into one cohesive system, which is the enterprise GIS. And then to note here, we're using Power BI to link to these different databases. So it's not just GIS software that we're using. We're using other applications to make this thing work. Okay. This one here looks at the work order, right? So work order becomes pertinent in asset management, right? So who's working on what equipment? How many times has one person worked on it, or who's working on an asset? So these are some of the things that we're trying to map out. And then at the end of it, how many of these things, in the asset world, can we see? So this one here, we just put this, real quick. The bigger the blob, in this picture here, the more of the assets are within the, within that database or within our world. All right. So there's a lot of valves, for example, in one of them. But, one of the things that I told the guy who's in charge of this application is that we don't want to see, the minutia of it. We just want to see the major parts or components of these assets. The big players, so to speak. So when we talk to the CFO or whoever is in charge, we can actually look at the numbers and then it makes sense. Not just from the standpoint of a small valve there. To me, that's just just getting too much into the grain of things. So these are some of the things that we're trying to do with that with that application. The other thing that we're trying to integrate is this project application software named PM Web, right? And we're trying to transform in how staff is visualizing major projects that involves different departments, people within our agency, right? So bridging the silo, and having it into like one single platform would be key here. Project assets, where they are and how they're divided into into a project, and then web-based or project construction are integrated into this system. Okay. Also, we could actually draw information into the system. Because they have a lot of repositories such as drawings or CAD data that goes into this application. It's something that we want to harness as well, and then integrate that into GIS. And then from a budgeting standpoint, this is another area where we can actually see, how much of the funding is going into what, and having a project application such as this, integrated with GIS would come a long way. So budgeting, capital projects, and having a business intelligence dashboard behind it, would help out our engineers on staff. And just note here, this application is software as a service. So the guys who log in, it lives up on the web, and we use this for project upkeep and maintenance. So there's a lot of moving pieces, as you can see. So this one here also, I'll talk about it briefly, which is our LIMS, laboratory information management system. So all of the sample points, data behind it, goes into this application. Right now, GIS has no communication with this application. So down the line, not 2026 or 2027. So hopefully within the 3 to 5 year period, we will be integrating into this application. Okay. And a little bit of the timeline of how we progress. So when I was hired in 2016, 2017, as I said before, the GIS master plan and how we planned this out, was the first document that that we came up, and then we've been using that plan, to get all of the applications developed, based on that that plan that we had. From that year. And then just fast forwarding a little bit, so I'll skip some of the upgrades that we did, but focusing on the 2025 2026 effort, we updated a couple of things that changed a couple of things that we do, is change our line ops regulator check, which is associated with our CSO, and strictly made that to a survey 123 application. And then rounding it from the back end, we have our Python / notebook server putting all of that together for us. And then more on that in a little bit. And then for 2026 and 2027, as I said before, there's some things that we want to do on the enterprise side. So a couple of things, that we're trying to do is upkeep and maintain the environment that the development environment is in. And what we're doing for that is to upgrade, that system so we have it, up to date. And then one of the things is that we have a lot of virtual machines that's running, GIS on the Azure environment. That's where we sit. At the beginning of it, we did have it on premise. That didn't work. So our IT and MIS department, propped it up, on the Azure, and we never looked back. Okay, so that's where we are. Before I move on with the applications, we'll talk a little bit about the system architecture and how we move traffic in and out of our applications. So this diagram here shows us the network traffic that goes in and out of our environment. So typically a user, if you follow along the blue line all the way across, so internet traffic goes out through our system, and it's managed through through a bunch of firewalls. So once it goes back in, I wish I had a pointer to actually point to you, but within those 2 blocks of bricks there, which are okay, awesome, thank you. Right, so traffic on anytime that we want to access these guys here, which is our Arc server, portal, and anything that we want to get into. And as far as traffic, right? So they would actually have to go through here, go through this firewall. We do have web adapter working with our GIS WAP, which is our web application proxy, right? So it limits pretty much all of the traffic that goes into here, hitting this guy here. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's built into into our network, right? So I can go more and more with this, but just to kind of like give you an idea, it was something that was propped up by our IT department, and working with IT and having those guys as someone that I can rely on, made things easier in terms of serving up our enterprise. So now what I'll do is just give you a couple of screen grabs of what our enterprise portal looks like, and the different dashboards and applications that we've developed in the span of 9 years. So currently we have linear assets that's specific to the line department. Engineering dashboard, anything inside of the plant. We've managed to coordinate with our CAD department and put one cohesive application that everyone within PVSC can rely on. Pollution prevention and ICB, those are the guys that looks at the connection for the 5,000 fogs or restaurants. The SIUs that I mentioned earlier, which are 162 total. Those are big businesses that outputs 25,000 gallons of wastewater every day. So they dump water to us, and we have them in these applications that staff can look at. Also, safety security, one of the new applications that we developed. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then some future apps that I'll get into. Operations department, which doesn't have a dashboard yet. Maintenance department, which is something that we'll have once the WEM or asset management application is complete. And then our lab and other departments we're looking to integrate sometime down the line. So here's our line operations dashboard. So these are all of the linear assets that we manage from meter locations to manholes to gravity mains. We have them in this application. From branch lines to the pump stations. Although we manage only 2 pump stations, we do have all of the adjoining pump stations that are tributary to our system. We also have regulators, right? So those CSO regulators are very key. So anytime that our line ops, staff that needs to look at information pertaining to these assets, they can view them. So some of the things that they can see, right? So this one here looks at Prospect Park primary meter, not just the regular information pertaining to this meter, but they have 360 imagery associated with each location. So they have the chamber photo, and then they have the outside photo. So for the reason that we did that is to provide additional data for new hires, that might not be too familiar with that site, right? So we took a picture of the chamber and then outside of the chamber, and then this application here is interactive. So when you zoom in to an area, as you can see the counter on the bottom, it tells you which of those assets owned by the PVSC have been surveyed. Which one has inverts, and those are some of the information that's that's in there, right? So it's dynamic in nature, and then it cycles through as someone peruses the data in there. The other one that we put together was this phase 5, which was the asset data information pertaining to the information on the line that has all of this data in there. So this has videos, CCTV videos. This has images associated with with a manhole or a line, or sonar data associated with it, and reports and their scoring associated with that with that report, right? So this was the phase 5 dashboard, so staff can access facilities inventory, conditions assessment pertaining to all of our assets along the line. So right now this application is set through our SharePoint application. So all of these videos are held by our IT department, and there's another way of actually doing it, through maybe WinCan Enterprise, but that's something down the line that we're looking into. Some more information pertaining to the information that's available, through this phase 5 effort. And then at the end of it, this program yielded recommendations and designs to correct and improve observed deficiencies, subsequent construction projects related to the main interceptor for cleaning and rehabbing the system. Right. So after they were done, they came up with this, and then the points that you see here are all of the projects associated with the with the rehabilitation project associated with the assessment that was done prior to some of these constructions going on around our service area. This image here looks at the PVSC radio and cellular hubs, allowing us to communicate to PVSC SCADA, from all of these 68 meters located around the service area. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is look at the flows, and we monitor the flows that goes into these meter chambers. This other one, this looks at the meter locations and how we've integrated Power BI and looking at some of these information. So with this one here, we can see, the anomalies that's happening, within our system. And what we see here are some of the anomalies that's being reported back into the system. So majority of it are the first two here, high flow detected, low flow detected, and these are the graphs and anomalies that we see reporting back into the system, and we're using Power BI to report back. I'm just going to cycle through a couple of them, right? So with this one here, very anomalous. So at some point, so in the beginning of September, there were no response to either the Innovice data, which is our hydraulic model, and the observed, which is EOPS or SCADA, right? But what was trending was the machine learning, but missing data here was the information coming from EOPS, right? So these were some of the things that that we can pick on, and we work with our line operations department to make sure that the meters are being maintained, by those guys. And then once they did do some of the the maintenance, this thing came back, soon after that. And as you can see here, all of the greens and the reds, popped up. So this helps our guys, that are responsible for the meters, to gauge what's going on, and then it supplements the work that they do, and then they use this as a gauge into responding a lot quicker to some of the anomalies happening with our meters. So I'm here so you guys can see what's going on. If you can see the red, the green, and the blue, those are the three graphs that you see here. Red being the observe, blue is the machine learning, and then green is the advice. As you can see here, they're pretty close, in terms of correlation, and it's pretty good, when it comes to showing you the correlation with the three graphs or models. And then more here. This one looks at the golf club in Clifton. This is another meter location. And this one is further up, closer to the falls, which is the Patterson meters. And as you can see in this visual here, the graphs here are pretty responsive and pretty close together. So at the end of the day, what we want these guys to do is use this as a supplement to when they go out there, or prior to when they go out there in terms of maintaining these meter locations. And then one of the other things too that we're doing is updating applications when we need to update them. So this one here is our regulator check application. So we went through a revamp of this app, which now uses Survey 123 as the main source of inputting data when a CSO event happens. This is the dashboard that allows the supervisors to see the guys when they're out there, and then at the same time monitor when the gates, as you can see on the right, either open or close during a CSO event. But I'll get into the criteria in a little bit and what triggers an event. Right. So typically in the old days, what they do was actually just communicate out there and say close the gate. So when they communicated that with the operator back who's operating the SCADA, they would push that button and close the gate. Just to give you an idea, this is what the sequence of what we do during a CSO alert, and how it's processed, behind the scenes by our notebook server. Right. So an event would take place. Plant flow goes above 350 MGD. Newark regulator gates are closed, and email is sent. So on the GIS side, this is created, as an event, beginning. Plant flow drops below 350. That signifies that the event is coming to an end, and then the Newark regulator gates are opened again, so water goes back, into our system. So the reason being, so when we have these things, hit 350 or more, we want to relieve, the amount of water coming into our system, and so by permit, we're allowed to, let's say, discharge, into the Passaic River, and then once it ends, right? So Newark regulator gates are open, and then email sent, so that event is ending. PVSC crews perform inspections at all of the regulator gate locations. Time, date, and operator, along with the crews, are all logged in to the Survey 123 form. Forms are saved on portal, so anybody who has access to portal can print out, view these reports. And then for housekeeping, what they do, our line operations group, reports are published as PDFs, and then they're saved into their to their drives. And here's a typical chamber and what it looks like. Right, so the green highlighted is our typical flow. This one here is on Cleveland Avenue regulator, located in Harrison. Although it's not the Newark gates, these guys here on sequence, once the gates are closed, so no flow is going into our line anymore. These are mechanically working. And then these guys as well, along the line would also discharge, during the event. And here's an aerial view of what this looks like. So normal flow in green, at the regulator. So once that closes at that regulator, the discharge of CSO or water goes out into the river. And I'm just focusing in on the regulators, 10 of them in Newark. These are what's monitored behind the script or notebook, right? So if three of these regulators meet 50% or greater closure, and 350 MGDs or greater are met, it starts or initiates the start of our CSO event. All right, so these are the triggering mechanism behind it. And then just to give you an idea, right? So this is not a matter of a few minutes or hours, right? It's many hours until the beginning of the storm. Once it's recorded by the notebook, and then when it ends, right? So it could be 5, 6, 7 hours or 8 hours later down the line where the completion of an event happens. So once that completion ends there on the right, our guys go out there and inspect these gates and make sure that they're not overflowing. Hazen and Sawyer helped us out in putting the notebook server up. So this is the muscle behind our application that puts everything together for us. And then the CSO event update application or script is maintained. I get to change it here and there, but that's pretty much just my take on it, as I am not a Python programmer, and I can read it, but as far as managing it, I can do so little just to make sure that it's still running. And this is just the guts of it, inside of it. So the first few lines there, as you can see, so those are the IPN numbers associated with each 10 gates. If 3 of those gates, meet the criteria of 50% closure, that's one of the criteria. And if 350 MGD are also met, right? So it's not an or, it's an and. And we make sure that those 3 gates are met, and then the inflow in the plant are also met. It triggers the event. And then finally, once you're here in the dashboard, this is the output that's created. This is the first modification. This just came out like a month ago, and then 2 weeks ago, this was the final version of the CSO event PDF. All right, so a lot of work that was put into this. This was like about 6 months of work between us and the line operations department, and getting a lot of input from the users. Engineering. Right, so many of the infrastructure built for this application is all associated with the plant. From the 55 facilities or main buildings that we maintain inside the 160 acres, anybody who has access to this portal can have information pertaining to above ground or underground assets. So some of the things that they can see is water lines, electric, right, sewer lines, manholes are all here, for staff to access. We do from time to time allow external contractors or consultants have access to our portal. So we give them credentials to get into our application, so they know where things are located. So we've had countless times where somebody hits something with their backhoe and rupture a line or damage an asset, right? So it's very important that we keep these guys in the loop, and then they have access to it. So once their contract is done, we eliminate their privileges in accessing this site. Some of the tools that we use, right? So Survey 123, obviously. 3 iPads, and then EOS RTK, 2 of them actually, one in the background, as you can see back there. And then the new one that we recently received is the EOS Scatty Gold, right? So no poles needed. It's pretty efficient. It can be used as a range finder as well. So up to 25 feet to the target. That's the minimum, and that's what we can do with that. And then we also have a 360 camera that we utilize for 360 imagery that we want to take for an area that we're inspecting. Here's another one that shows you the PVSC road closure application. So this one is solely used by our security and safety department. So all of the construction that goes on within our plant, these guys use it to, I guess, broadcast to staff that this is going to be closed, for a specific amount of time, and then they have this application, running. Instead of sending email, they can have people just look at this application. We also have periodic drone flights that we conduct. We have a staff that's associated with the Bergen County Emergency Management. So he's our pilot, when it comes to doing all of these flights. He talks to air traffic control in Newark and make sure that, we don't get in their way. Because we're so close to the Newark airport that, we need to, be in communication with those guys. All right. So this one is also available to staff, in order for us to, look at existing conditions and progress of construction. This one here is our Industrial Compliance Bureau application, our dashboard. These are a series of slides that I'm going to go through as far as what we're doing for pollution prevention, P2 department, our connections group, and then our industrial pretreatment group. All right, so our SIU, which are significant industrial users, why they're so important, right? So these are the big, I call them the big players in terms of monitoring their flows. I'll get to point number 2, and this is the criteria that counts, I think, the most. Discharges an average of 25,000 gallons per day or more of processed wastewater to PVSC assets, meaning our branch lines, that communicate, these waters, down to the plant. So we'll talk about this in a little bit. Right. So this is a dashboard that we developed for them. So all 162 significant industrial users are integrated into this application. We use this backend database called IMCS, which houses all of these companies, and we have this information pushed through to this application. So all 162, they can view it. Understand what the situation is, with regards to, all of 162 SIUs. Here's a closer look of what's getting pulled. It gives you the amount of wastewater coming in, and their permit associated with that SIU. Next one here is your P2 grease customers, which are your fog. There's roughly about 5,000 of these customers that connect to us. And then our ICB department, which has the task of going to each sector and inspecting all of these 5,000 restaurants or fog customers. Again, also this application feeds from the database called IMCS. And this is a closer look of what they look like. This one here is our service check application. For any calls that we get for trips and falls, we use this application to put in addresses and to make sure if a point is within the district or outside the district. So anything in red is outside, anything in green, sorry about the color, but it is green to the right. That tells us that it's in district. Very simple, but effective. Another one that we're working on, this one was in the summer, was compiling all of the floor plans, that make up the buildings within the plant, right? So this was, geared towards our safety and security department. But the next series of slides shows you pretty much the amount of work that went into this, right? So this took us about, I'm going to say, a whole year to put this together, and it's not even completed, but has all of the floor plans of the buildings within the plant. So on the west side, as you can see here, all of the buildings were digitized or actually taken from CAD and then brought into GIS, right? So on the sludge side, the same thing happened there, where we actually incorporated a lot of these floor plans into GIS. So in the future, we do have Revit models that we're going to get into. But what we're going to do is actually set it up in the dev environment first, set up ArcGIS indoors, and then see if we can actually supplement this application with, with that data coming from these Revit models. And this is a closer look of what, of the end product, of what our security and safety group looks at. So from time to time, they need to look at, some of these, safety assets, be it fire extinguishers, alarms, things of that nature. They need to have like a good inventory of where they are. So what we did for this part here, for these two buildings, out of the 55, we only did 2 of them because the effort is a lot, to put this together. So we made them floor aware and given them floor, information for each asset. So if you cycle through a floor, each of these assets or safety assets would, pop up. It doesn't do it justice because, I just have screenshots, but, if I were to actually go live, you guys can see and cycle through, each one, in each, safety assets, would pop up. Okay, so there's a lot of data behind this. As I said before, we want to actually get into the BIM Revit, digital twin integration. So we do have a lot of models that, that constitutes, a lot of our facilities. So in order for us to get these, these models into our system, for any new projects that we have, construction-wise or renovations, we're asking these consultants or contractors to, have, BIM models as part of the deliverables. And then looking at a lot of these, these data, we have ACC, Autodesk Construction Cloud, as the repository for a lot of these models, right? So on the Autodesk side, we can see them, but the cool thing now is that we can actually see the same data set propagate into GIS. All right, so some slides here that shows you, the different disciplines, that they create, based on these Revit models. So this one is the structural of the head end facility. This one is the process and mechanical part of the discipline. And then the last one here is the architecture. So these were the 3 that I extracted, for this, for this slide. But there's a lot more, built into this. And then once you're able to put all of that together, you can actually see the same data propagate into ArcGIS Pro, as you can see here. And then down the line, what we want to do is use, indoors to, integrate, these assets into GIS. Right. So there's a lot of work to do. And we're reliant on a lot of consultants to, help us out, and a lot of grunt work from our interns, during the course of the summer. Right. So, and then smart utility. So our old chief engineer that just left us, this was his coin, in terms of, making GIS smart utility and how we can actually make it, dynamic in nature. So the next few slides talks about this and how we, see how we leverage, the different data from different data streams, right? To start, here's a diagram of how we, weave the various sources connecting to GIS, and how we use other technologies like Power BI to render results, data that we can't easily develop on GIS, right? So, for instance, here, if you look at the ICM Live, which is the hydro model, we push that through a notebook to make sense of some of those models or flow meter data, that we can push through dynamically through a notebook. EOPS data streams are also treated the same way, where we're using notebook as the central brain, in terms of, putting that up together for us, right? So there's a lot of things that we're doing, exciting and new in terms of making the information, I'm going to say a lot more attractive to our users, and then put more, information behind it. And then the objective of the integration is to capture live or near data real time. So one of the things that we did for the flow meter, we fed it 5 years worth of data, right, from EOPS. So we made sure that there was base data associated with it. And then through that training, it's been a year and a half now that our flow meter anomaly application has been running, and it's been great. So it allows us to see like another data stream and then view, this information as it should, and allows our meter guys, to look at it from their standpoint if there's any anomalies that they can see. The second one there to streamline the process, and then have machine learning and train the data sets going in. Right, so there's a lot of data feeds that we rely on, and then some of the future integrations that we have. I do apologize for taking, some images, from Esri and then from Oracle. So ArcGIS Indoors, floor plan aware viewer, integrate Revit models, as I said before, and then hopefully integrate with our asset management application in the future. So it's not just looking at linear data, it's looking at vertical data as well. And then improve upon, our floor plan viewer. Utility network, that's one of the things that we want to look into as well. So nothing immediate in 2026, but that's something that we want to do at least for the assets that's owned by PVSC. But doing it for the entire 48 towns is a monumental task. And then that's something that we need to talk to the towns and see if we can actually get the data that they have, because data that we had gotten from previous work are not to par, when it comes to, geometrically correct data coming into the system, right? So for UN to work correctly, you got to make sure that the data is geometrically correct. And then the last slide there is WAM GIS integration. So the first part of 2026, we're going to try to, get this system going and integrating it with GIS and having, a pulse, on the WAM application is going to be a big, lift for us, because it's going to be looking at, all of the assets as they exist, within our system. Okay, I'm just going to go to lessons learned. I'll go back to the other slide later. So one of the things that we learned, right, have a plan, vision, and what the system will, look like, right? Just to kind of have an idea of what this, system, would become. It was key to us, So and having the backing of management. And putting this, together and making the plan work and into like what the enterprise GIS looks like right now. Make sure you have the total, buy-in from IT, very important, as they will help you in building out the infrastructure. As I said before, they were the ones that pushed the cloud solution or cloud environment on the Azure platform. Hardware to be used in the collection must meet IT standards and protocols, right? So that's very important to us, and make sure that they're in lockstep with you when when it comes to that. For permitting, must meet and make sure system is robust and has redundancy in place. So right now we're working on this first part of 2026. We just have a production environment, not a dev environment. So that's one of the first things that we're going to work on for the first half of 2026 to make sure that that dev environment works. So more on that on the permitting. So in order for us to meet permit on the CSO side, we got to make sure that the system is robust enough to make sure that it finishes from the beginning all the way to the end, and has the reporting available to it once it's said and done. Know your users, coordinate with them, and have them involved. So the second time around with the CSO regulator application, we had more feedback from our from our staff, that uses the application. And then the last few points here, can't do it all, right? So right now, I'm going to tell you, it's just one person, which is me, that's managing everything, for PVSC's GIS. You say that's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy, right? But we're depending on a lot of consultants. I know that. But at the same time, we do hire part-time help, and we do hire interns during the summer, right? So we put them to work, so somewhere down the line, anybody that wants to, intern with us, send them through, and, we'll look at their resumes. All right. Yeah, of course. Understand the culture, right? So that's one of the things that I've seen since being there, 9 years ago. It's hard to teach, I guess, these older guys, new tricks, right? So they're so used to, pen and paper, and then some of them still fight it. Okay, but you keep going through, so don't let that, dissuade you from, from the goal of, implementing a true enterprise GIS. So that's one of the things I'm very passionate about it. And then people tell me at work that, you got to ease up a little bit, but I typically don't. That's something that I love, and I'm going to keep pushing until I retire. So, use GIS to integrate with, multiple systems of record, right? So one of the things that I talked about with, WAM, PM Web, those are big name items that we want to get completed sometime before I retire. Okay. Again, those were WAM, LIMS, integrating with IMCS, EOPS, and SCADA are some of the big names that I talked about. And then last point there, replicate the system so you have a tool, a platform for new staff to learn from, right? So succession, right? So we're not all going to be there at the end of it. We need to have a plan, so what better way than to have a digital twin in place, that's gonna replace us. That's basically it. And at the end of it, and I tell these to people at my job, right? We can't replicate you, right? But we can replicate the environment, so with that, I'll go back to this slide here. Any questions?
Okay, so I'm going to go around and bring the microphone. You guys can hear me. I'm going to bring the microphone around fast on questions, but I'm going to get it started with a question of my own. You had the gates up, and you said it was not an and or, it was not an or, but an and.
Yes.
And that is to say, when you have a storm event and it's over 350 million
MGD, yep.
million gallons per day.
Yep.
And then the internal limitation of well, I should say the limitation of the internal environment, when those conditions are all met, the gates open and the storm event happens. And then when it ends, the inspectors go out. How many inspectable events from storms do you think you have? Just, best guess.
This year?
For 25, sure.
For 25, we have, I actually just looked at that. We roughly have about 15 events that's recorded.
So 15 of those 15 events, you have the crews go out and they have the ARC survey 1, 2, 3 forms, and they go out. And then
so prior to I'm going to say a month ago, right? So they were using Workforce.
Okay.
So yes, I failed to say that. So
Oh,
they
no,
were
it's
using,
fine.
so they were using Workforce initially with their iPads and their iPhones, right? And what we did was actually, go from that and go into Survey 123. The reason being is that MIS, our IT department, could monitor, the iPads and the iPhones, right? So they
Right.
need to lock it down.
Okay.
So in order for the IT department to lock things down, so we went to Surface Pro, and then Surface Pro with Survey 123 was the solution behind it. I
Don,
do
you're
apologize
getting
for
you're
not
getting
doing
to
that. That's it.
the root of my question, and
That
that was
is
the
it.
hardware, and
That is
Surface Pro was actually what I was trying to get
Yes.
at. I didn't know if that was
Yeah.
okay. So that was the ultimate question. You guys have any questions? Any questions from the Trish? Come on, you want. Yeah, I knew she was gonna have one for us. Ah, there's a speaker in the ceiling. So shout it out. Sorry, come up here.
So, Dom, thanks. My first question is just about when you started, was there no GIS there?
No GIS. In 2016, there was no GIS.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Second question is, you talked about that LIMS system? There's no mapping component of that at the moment?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay.
So that we want to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a future, project, Trish. Hopefully within the 2-3 year period from 2026, we'll get into that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Anybody else have any questions? Are there any questions online for us? Well, Dom, thank you so very much. Every time we do this stuff, I'm amazed at the modernization of history for integral workflows that we have throughout the state. And this is nothing short of an amazing feat. It's commendable. Bravo. Oh, we got a question. All right, good. I don't think so.
We'll find out. All right. So one, I'm really impressed with the mapping you have of on plant there. We work for the Ocean County Utilities Authority, so it was a great presentation for right in our wheelhouse. And when you're talking about all the different ways to integrate, like, especially this upcoming year and the following years, and you've done a ton of work so far, and something we're doing now is mapping out the plant. We have our collection system pretty good and set. And we're going to map out the plant for, I think, a lot of the things you did. You mentioned safety and engineering were the main users, and then the asset management is going to be something that comes up next. So it's hard to predict, right? Like what will be used in the future, like when other people get their eyes on it. Is there anything like in hindsight you kind of wish that you did as you were building out the system to make this integration easier? Because I think integration in our other systems is something that, ideally that's what I want to reach, but like, that's not always how it starts, right? And then it's like, and it's hard to know until it comes time for integration. Like, oh man, wish I, thought about different ways that it might integrate, but I'm just trying to, and obviously we have different systems, so it's going to be hard to really know, but is there anything that you could think of that, in hindsight, you wish you would have done differently as you built the system?
So in hindsight, so that's a great question. So if I were to go back in time, and we were recommending or looking at the asset management program. So one of the things that we looked at was CityWorks, right? And it could have been Maximo, it could have been like another asset management software, but WAM or OWAM was already there, right? But then we're looking at 9 years later, we're still looking at WAM, but no GIS integration. So if they would have pushed that, or we would have pushed that, earlier on, and have maybe a CityWorks, in there, because SQL, would have been like a good marriage, with the with the two systems. And then again, I always go back to resource staffing. Having more of me, maybe a clone of me, would have been the best thing to do. But that's something that's out of my my power, and we're dealing with what we have. Yeah, but definitely the CityWorks application would have been a good one to go back in. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. We've got one more over here.
Hi, thank you for your talk. It's really,
Here you are too.
oh, sorry. I'm Nugma from Somerset County GIS, and we're currently setting up our enterprise GIS.
Mhm.
And so I saw that you went from, I'll come over there, from on premises to, sorry, cloud. And I
Yep.
just was wondering, what were the kind of things that you decided were better for cloud versus, you know,
So
why you shifted?
yeah, good question. So I think the reason that we shifted because of IT, right? So there were a couple of downtime that they didn't want to deal with, and looking into the Azure environment, and then doing the settings up there was a lot more manageable or easier to push through, versus doing things on-prem, and then less reliant on their guys to work in the weekend or service the infrastructure when we needed to. So that was pretty much the call on the IT side. So less maintenance. Yeah.
Hey, Dom.
Hey, Brian.
So Brian Embley, Office of GIS. So you did a lot for one person. Amazing, the integration. You talked about consultants. You got a lot of hardware, software involved. I'm wondering about budgeting and funding for all this. You're a one-person shop, as you said. Do you have a GIS budget, or was maybe funding coming from some of those other departments that you had to integrate with?
It's a combination of sorts. So we do have a GIS budget, Brian. Great question. But it's it's through engineering, that most of the monies, for all of our applications were developed, and we're right now for 2026, 2027. We just got bond money to work on the next phase of our program. Right. So it is I'm just going to say a costly, integration, when it comes to the budget, because upkeep or keeping up with the Azure, and then all of the infrastructure that we have up there. I stopped asking, right, because IT doesn't want to share with me, but it's very costly. Yeah, but I don't have numbers though, Brian. Yeah.
So no white collar hacking, siphoning. It's okay. So we've got a question online here from Kate. She says, how do you use the data system for leak failure detection and prediction? And then she goes on to say, and how can the public access pertinent information? I am working on the project related to sources, tracking the fecal indicator of bacteria. How, Seymour, how would someone working in source track down work with you with access information from your portal? I hope that made more sense than
so there's
okay.
Yeah, so there's no access from the outside, right? So it's not a publicly open application.
Any data
if you need data, your best bet is contact me. If you want information, GIS related wise, but as far as the was there like a lab data there that she was getting at? So she might have to do an Oprah, for that type of data.
She also notes and mentions, do you do anything with leak prediction and or detection? Does your system handle that?
No, not at the moment. So no leak detection at the moment. So from the assessment in 2017, 2018, with our line, so we're due again, for an upkeep, because I think we're required by DEP now to reassess or assess or evaluate our line within the next 5 years. So 20% per year, that we have to inspect. So that's something that's in the works at the moment.
Okay, so I want you to take out your calendar now, and December 2030, you're going to just come on back and we're going to give us an update of all the things that were about to be integrated or going to be integrated, right? Right? Can we count on you?
Hope, yeah. Let's hope. Yeah, I'd love to.
Good. Yeah. That's good. Anyone else have anything further? Oh, Lena. So Lena's in the far corner here next to the part where we're getting some feedback. So you got to... Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hi, Elena Gable. I'm with Cumberland County. At the beginning, you mentioned there was a GIS master plan. That's something that's really interesting and intriguing
Sure.
to me. Is that available online at all to look at?
Let me ask, the powers that be, see if I can actually give that to you guys.
Awesome. That'd be
All
great.
right.
Thank you.
And just email me.
I'll take a picture.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. We've got one more online here. It looks like I'm getting my steps in today. This is awesome. Long drive, and I can step it up a little. Okay, so what do we got? We got. All right, you guys are gonna have to read that because I can barely see that. Yeah, old eyes here. You have to increase the font size.
Who are some of the key outside vendors that enabled this incredible work?
Consultants, you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. And this is coming from Morgan.
So we've relied on a couple. One being Hazen and Sawyer. They used to be Mazer. I forget what they become now. Colliers. Yep. So Colliers. And then we had a couple of pro bono that actually did work for us, believe it or not. Okay. So I can't name those people though.
Hey, that's. Why would you want to? Hey, it's great.
Yeah.
It's impressive. State your name and your question.
Matt Lawson from Mercer County. I'm
Hey, Matt, how are
interested
you?
in that you're champions, right? If you came on and you were fresh, it's like you had to learn the culture, you had
Yep.
to learn people, get trust.
Yep.
Can you say a little bit about that?
So one of the things that's not so much keeping me back or keeping us back, and not having enough, able GIS bodies, is having a champion in each department, right? So those are some of the things that I've actually relayed to the bosses, right? So if you're not going to give me any able bodies that's going to do GIS, pick someone from your group that's going to actually learn GIS, right? So at some point we all started there, and if they're into it, and there's some, and willing to learn the technology, that's the best way of going about. In my case, obviously, is to have that champion. Yeah.
That's a great way to go about it.
Well, I guess a little bit different, right? Because you're coming in,
Yeah.
and you've got a job, a task that you're given, and it's like you've got to shift an organization.
Yeah.
And you can't to doing that from the bottom is really, really hard. What did you have from the top, or what did you have for budget? How did that come about, or how did you work it if you had to work it kind of from the bottom?
So great question, Matt. So when I started, so the budgeting part of it, I was partly involved, but that was all set up, prior to me to getting hired, right? So that I'm not saying that whole money, was there, but initially that was actually thought of before I got there. All right, so the need of it was already given. Me, being a hire, pretty much push the envelope a little bit more, and hopefully down the line I will get, or we will get, the extra GIS person that we'll need. It's not just one. I keep telling them, we need like 2 or 3, maybe even more, to get this going, because I'm not going to be there forever, and somewhere down the line that's going to happen.
Lastly, dude, amazing.
Thanks, Matt.
So part
Thank
of
you.
your, I guess to Matt's point too, is you're also a teacher for a program, right? So
Oh,
you
yeah.
you can sort of
Yeah.
foster and cultivate the students there.
I
and
do.
get them
I do
excited.
get some of my students to intern with me.
Yeah.
Right. So I also teach, part-time as an adjunct at Ramapo College, and I do get a couple of my students, to come with me,
Yeah.
and then also at the Meadowlands. So I actually push some of those guys toward them.
Yeah, and that's important. That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
If you know.
Yep, absolutely.
But I never would have thought of the get a champion from internal. Because I guess for
You
the
gotta be
climate-
creative.
The climate has to be that they want to do something. Lots of times
Yep.
you get into places like, I have my job and this is not my job.
Yeah.
So. Anyone else? Anything for Dom? All right. Well, Dom, thank you very much for
you.
coming today and doing all this. Really appreciate it. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to switch over a little bit. Try to.
got a couple of last minute things here that, of course, I didn't mention. So I'm going to try to get out of this. Over here. Okay, so here we are with the New Jersey Geospatial Forum. So first things first, our next meeting is Thursday, March 5th. Hoping to encourage any food truck owners out there that want to take it upon their champion the idea of having food truck rally out here in March. You have my blessing, and I will gladly assist however I possibly can, because it's still a dream. The dream is still alive. It's just unlikely, however unlikely. Okay, so the other thing is the election announcement. So we had an election. I touched on that a little bit with Liza, our wonderful Fed exec, and they're on the site here. We have about us. No. Oh, executive committee. Oh, executive committee voting. Ah, yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. So we've got. Oh, yeah. Thank you. All right. Okay. So the first, these are. So we can see these are the only ones that have. Okay. Good. All right. So we've got the election. Did we actually have an election? We didn't really have an election. We had people. Thankfully, we had some folks that were willing to participate, and some were appointed, but there wasn't a formal, like, people all wanted the position, and I can understand it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have to be ready. But we have David Avery from a land surveyor constituency group, who's taking over. We have Jocelyn Vander Acker, and I'm sure I botched that up. And Jocelyn, I'm going to apologize just now for the regional authority. And oh, right, we didn't. That's right, regional authority. I forgot. Okay. And we've got Eliza, as I said, and Ken is returning for non-government organization. Those are our winners and our participants. Thankfully, they joined the ranks of us here, and there's only a couple of us that were able to make it. Unfortunately, again, hopefully the food trucks in March will bring lots of folks to come have lunch with us and otherwise. Let's see, Thursday, March. Was there anything else that I did a poor? That was poor showing. I know it was. I wasn't ready for that. This part was like sort of flung on me. So, okay. Well, I guess if there's nothing else, I'm gonna mosey on over to Cooper's, and you guys can harass me if you want for anything further. And hopefully I'll see you all in March. And thank you very much for coming. We've got, 30 or so people filled in, maybe 20, something like that. Pretty good. And the total was 104 roughly. So I'm trying to get our attendance at its maximum peak. So far we've got, I think 140 as per the chart that's on our website. So I'm always looking to see you all in person so you can formally laugh at me to my face. All right, y'all. Thank you very much. Have a great one, and see you in March. There. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this one off.